What's up, guys? We are back with another Cosmic Legions test shot, taking a look at another one of the Tusk figures. This is the Tusk Science Officer, and this guy's actually being borrowed from Kevin over on the Mythic Legions and Cosmic Cabal. So huge thanks to Kevin for letting me take a look at this guy and doing a video for this. This is one of the Legion Builder-ish kind of figures. It's not necessarily called a Legion Builder like a lot of the other stuff we've seen on the Mythic side, but he's definitely, you know, more of a grunt, more of your army builder background type of character. But this figure right here, having this test shot in hand to play around with it, has already had me reevaluate what I have ordered. And I've already ordered more of these guys via the approved retailers, because this figure has just gotten my mind going in terms of swaps, just head swaps and things like that. This body is going to be incredibly versatile, I think, when it comes to sort of beefing up your cosmic shelf. So let's see what this guy can do, see how it moves around. This is a 1.0 style figure, so if you've messed with 1.0 older style Legions, you know, the majority of Mythic Legions, you kind of know what to expect. He is still a little different, though. So we've got a head that can look up a little bit. He can look down really good. You've got tilt side to side. You've got your rotation. Arms out at the shoulders. They, of course, rotate. We've got our single jointed, basically 90 degrees, a swiveling elbow. You can rotate the gauntlets as well, rotate the wrists, and then you've got, at least as far as these hands go, the trigger finger hands, they are vertically hinged, which of course is really nice. Torso is on a ball peg, so that's the 1.0 aspect of this figure. He goes back really, really far. Tilt side to side, really nice as well. And your rotation. He does not crunch forward all that well because of the belt and this very hard sort of chest emblem thing that sits on the front. It just sort of stops. Legs go out pretty much all the way. That's basically the splits, right? They do kick forward, but you have to kick them out a little to the side to get them to go because of the cod piece right here. This is a really rigid plastic. It's not going to give. This is basically the same kind of piece that we have with Legions, like the little loincloth pieces that they have to hide the hips. So that's there. You do have your thigh twist. We've got single jointed rotating knees. They go back basically 90 degrees. And then we've got rotation at the ankle. Really, really nice rocker down here, and pretty solid hinges as well. So these guys are pretty decently articulated. I mean, it's very much in line with Legions, don't get me wrong. There's not anything sort of extra or new to be found here, but there is some stuff that is of slightly greater range. Now, visually, this is where things have really changed for me, having this test shot in hand, just to get a better idea of what we're working with, obviously. So there's no paint, it's a test shot, but I can see all the detail, and I've had a pretty good amount of time to sort of play around with swapping parts just to see what else is going to work and maybe what's not going to work easily, throw in some custom heads on it and things like that. And I gotta say, these guys, I mean, they're science officers. Whatever that is supposed to mean in the confines of Cosmic Legions, these guys are definitely, you know, like space warrior bodies. They're fully armored. That's what they're going to be when it comes to my display. And I think there's just a lot to look forward to with this particular figure. There are 3 Tusk figures. There's the Sentry, there's the Science Officer, and the other one I've looked at already is the 2.0 style Engineer. So this guy is a little bit larger. You know, it's more average size for Legions, and it is just absolutely crammed with detail. This guy is going to be, white in the finished product with blue highlights on it, similar to how the Engineer is black with red. This guy is going to be white with blue, and there's just so much to soak in with this particular figure. Tons of detail, tons of sculpt all over it. Everything is absolutely covered in all this techie, greebling kind of detail. We do have more of the ports that I've gone over on the Engineer, so these allow for like wrist gauntlets and blasters, and your actual holsters for the blasters, as far as all of these little ports and things like that. But everything is textured, everything has sculpt, everything has detail. I mean, again, just like the Engineer, sculpt on the underside of the boots, which it's not needed. It's cool that it's there. They didn't have to do that, but it's another thing that is very Legions, is to get all of that detail everywhere they can put it. Again, with this particular guy, though, he's going to be, you know, kind of an army builder. He's going to be somebody you want to beef up your cosmic ranks with. And I could see a lot of people going crazy with this figure once they get it in hand in terms of the detail and the styling that it offers, because there's a lot of potential for part swapping on this figure. But it is very much going to be its own thing, too. All of the Tusk bodies are different. They are not the same through and through. There's going to be part sharing between the Sentry and the Science Officer, I believe. But they are very much their own thing. we've got things like on this particular body, the legs are a little bit different. They're almost like digitigrade legs where they kick back at the knee. I believe the Vorga figure also is the same way. I have that one. I'll have to compare. So you've got like a knee that actually kicks back. So it's, kind of a generically alien design in that way. It's certainly not human. So I do like the fact that there's something a little bit different about these, but there's just so much stuff all over this figure. Little bits and bobs and all this techie detail. It's just crazy to see this, especially in comparison to a Mythic Legions figure, which at this point, we know what to expect with a lot of the figures. Up until, say, Poxus and Necronominus get here, we kind of know what to expect with Legions. This takes everything and just throws it into an entirely different direction with all the styling, the different kinds of detail, and I cannot stress enough how much detail there is in this body. Just like the Engineer, he does have like the carapace piece, the back armor. So this is going to take the place of pauldrons for these particular figures within Cosmic, and you can pop this big thing off, and then you have a slightly slimmer build for your Science Officer, but he's still very much a big figure. And then we've got our head sculpt up here, which is different from the Engineer. It's different from the Sentry, so those are unique aspects between the Tusk figures. This is a very wide head, like a hammerhead looking thing almost. So this is a helmet, and you've got the removable piece. Just like on the Science Officer, this will be translucent blue in the finished product. It's, of course, opaque gray here, but then you've got this sort of mono eye thing underneath, showing even more detail, tons of sculpt. So you've got two different display options with this head just by default. So there is a lot of stuff going on with this figure. No doubt about it. No easier way to say it. There is a lot of detail, a lot of sculpt, a lot of just cool designs oozing out of every inch of this figure. Now, as far as some size comparisons go, we've got our Science Officer in the middle. This is the Tusk Engineer test shot, which is a 2.0 figure, so of course smaller, slightly shorter, but mostly more slender in build. And then we've got the Mythic Legions Vorthog for a 1.0 figure here, and I think this is the really good comparison because, well, there's a huge amount of compatibility here. Everything's going to be swappable between these guys. They use the same kind of joint structure. So orcs in space, you're going to see it. I'm going to be doing skeletons in space, I am sure. So there's a lot of possibilities with part swapping among those. Let's move the Engineer aside, and here is the Mezco Conan. We're going to do some other lines. And let's move Vorthog aside, and here is a Super 7 figure, Ultimates Tigra. And then let's do a Figure Arts. Here is Piccolo, the superhero Piccolo. And then let's do one more. Here is a Hasbro figure. Here is one of the, whichever Viper this is, Python Patrol Viper. So you can see this is definitely in line with all of our 1.0 Mythic Legion stuff. So it's going to scale in the same vein as that. So anything that you're used to with 1.0 Mythic Legions is very much going to come across pretty much the same when it comes to our Cosmic figures. Now, as far as accessories goes, the Science Officer has a pretty solid spread when it comes to weaponry, and also ways to just change up the appearance. Now, there are hands to talk about, similar to how the Engineer test shot that I have included hands, but they aren't necessarily all included with the figure. There's a hand pack for the Tusk guys. So you've got gripping or trigger finger hands on him here, and then we've got some extra hands to talk about that'll come in that pack. There's a set of vertically hinged gripping hands, regular gripping hands. There's a set of laterally hinged gripping hands. And then there's a set of these style posy hands, which really weird because, of course, this is a test shot. They still have the little sprue connector on there. I don't know if that's something that's across the board for people that got this figure, or if it's just this example. I'm not going to be removing those, so I won't be using those in any kind of photography or anything like that. But those are some of the optional hands that'll come in the pack. We do get some extra stuff to change up the appearance, though. Some of these figures within the Cosmic line have like a full-on like astronaut dome helmet situation, and this figure is among them. I will say that at least as far as the test shots go, on the two examples that I've gotten my hands on, these are a little bit difficult to put on so far. I'm assuming maybe it's just a fit problem from the test shot, timing. So we'll see when we get the finished product. But we've got like this piece here, which this is going to be clear, so you'll get to see inside, but it's, it's opaque. It very much feels like half of an Easter egg, honestly. So you've got like the dome there, and then you've got this piece that can sit over top, and you need the back armor, the little carapace piece, to actually use this. It'll fit in there. And then you've got this that sort of creates the outer structure of the head dome. So you've got this. And then within that, we've got an actual alien head. So this is a unique head for this particular figure. This is not, it's not like the Tusk guys are all the same. Like, this is not the same kind of head that the Tusk engineer has. So this one is very different. It's more like hammerheady in many ways. Like, you know, I could see this guy being, you know, very much his own thing in the confines of Legions when it comes to this particular head sculpt. It does seem very unique, but at the same time, he is going to be kind of Legion buildery. So you've got these weird, like, hammerhead eyes that stick out the side. Like, you've got this big, like, frontal lobe and almost like a skeleton nose on the front. So there's a lot of stuff going on with this figure. It's of course, I mean, for lack of a better phrase, it's very alien. And then we get some weaponry for this guy. So we've got two of these little blasters, and these are the same kind of blasters that the engineer has. These, I think we're going to see a lot of these probably. And these have the holes on them. So we've got the little pegs. There's a short peg and a long peg that'll go in here, and then you can pop these in the holes. So he's got like a hole on his belt back here. He's got a hole on this little side piece here, so you can have those off. You'd probably want to use the smaller one for that. If you wanted, I mean, you could get weird with it and put it on his wrist if you wanted to. Like, you can do something like that, which looks, I don't know, kind of ridiculous. I'm not so sure about that. And then we've got the larger blaster rifle here, which I really like this. I mean, this is going to seem like a very generic, all-purpose, dual-handed blaster rifle that we're going to see in this line. I'm sure we're going to see a lot of this. But both of these guns have just a ton of sculpt in them. There's a lot going on with these. And I mean, ultimately, I can't wait to see them in fully painted detail. One of my favorite accessories with this guy, though, is another thing that takes advantage of the ports on the body. So some figures have these little projection pieces that come out of them, and he is no different. So he's got one of these pieces that like projects one of like the Cronin skulls, which I think is rad. And this thing's going to be translucent plastic as well. Of course, it's not here, but this looks really cool. I like the idea of these guys being able to like pop up a transmission or some sort of orders or something like that. It adds just a little bit of flair, and it's definitely something a little bit more unique also, especially as we get a handful of these across these figures. So this thing's just really cool. I'm really happy with this. Something just a little bit different. And, you know, again, something else that takes full advantage of these ports that a lot of the figures have on their wrists. So a good solid array of accessories, many ways to change this figure up just by default. And then, of course, if you get the hand pack, you're going to have a lot more options as far as expressive hands and things that this guy can hold. So yeah, overall, I definitely have come out of this figure a lot more excited than I have with, say, Kragnar and the Engineer. Not because I wasn't super excited about those to begin with, but because this figure in particular has shown me a lot of the possibilities that some of these bodies are going to provide. I knew that there was going to be a lot of part swapping potential, but until I got this figure in my hand to really see what it was going to do, I didn't really have a lot of ideas. But now I have too many ideas to the point where I have gone back and ordered more of this figure because I just want to do stupid space stuff with this thing. I think the figure looks awesome. Whether it's a science officer or whatever in the world you want to do with it, there is a ton of detail on this figure. He's got some crazy armor. He's got a wild looking head sculpt. Well, an alternate head sculpt when it comes to the actual alien head. Some cool accessories, and it's just a fun figure. It's a very much breath of fresh air kind of thing when it comes to the Legions line, that this thing is very familiar but offers just so much new stuff. So that's going to do it for this look at the Cosmic Legions Tusk Science Officer Test Shot. Let me know what you guys think. Feel free to like, comment, subscribe, and share, and until next time.